Hey everybody, what's going on? Fabian Calvo, founder and president of the Note House and creator of the Resourceful Real Estate Academy, here with another video that covers two really important points. The first one is the shift or the big money that is flowing into real estate, and I think this is important. You know, in many other asset classes, one of the things that investors always look for, they're like, all right, well, what's the big money doing? You know, when you saw John Paulson or when you saw George Soros and some of these other big, Bill Gross from PIMCO, big investors moving money into gold, you know, that was a signal to a lot of commodity investors. They were like, wow, that's a bullish sign. They must know something. Well, that's happening for real estate. It's been happening now for at least the last 6 months, perhaps even longer. Take Blackstone Group, for example. Over the last year alone, or in 2012, they purchased over $2.7 billion in real estate. And you have John Paulson, who made a name for himself in betting against subprime, now is betting on land values around cities. And basically what he's saying is that when you have a market that is collapsing, the value, the lots and the land for residential construction typically falls the hardest. I mean, gets pummeled, right? But in a recovery, they're typically ones that surge the most. So in the last year, Paulson has purchased enough land in California and in Colorado to build over 25,000 new residential homes. So, you know, what do these guys know that maybe the average investor does not know? Take somebody like Warren Buffett, who in August of last year said, it's a great time to get back into housing. I've talked to you at length about how the market is fundamentally being manipulated at the highest levels by the Federal Reserve, and just their interest rate policies alone, or the FHA, who in the last year, a third of all new loans were made with just 3% down. So they're clearly trying to reinflate the housing bubble. I think it's a perfect opportunity for investors that are educated, that have a real entry strategy and a real exit strategy to get in, make money, and to get out. But make no mistake, this is the beginning, once again, I believe, of a bubble that is forming, and the accommodating policies of the Federal Reserve and also the actions of what these government agencies are doing are very clear and very indicative of that bubble forming. Also, the big money getting in at the right time. You know, typically you ride asset prices up and you make your money when you buy right, you'll do pretty well. Now, another point I wanted to make up is something that I talk about often, and something that the Note House does here all the time. We're a big believer in virtual due diligence. You know, the real estate market is fundamentally changing. Today, somebody that's in Antarctica, somebody that is in London, somebody that is in Singapore can be buying real estate all over the world. Take the auction format. You know, auctions that used to be conducted on the courthouse steps now are opened up to buyers around the world because they're done online. 80% of the properties the Note House buys, or notes that we buy, we've never even seen the property. We always use virtual boots on the ground, virtual due diligence, some of our own systems that we've set up. But here's an article in the money investing section of the Wall Street Journal that says, have troubled assets will travel. And it's talking about how a lot of different investors, and we deal with multi-billion-dollar international banks as well, are now looking to funds that were set up to buy loans and buy distressed debt, distressed properties in the U.S., now are buying in Europe. Remember, in America, a majority of U.S. banks have already been recapitalized. They've already gotten the money from the Fed. Whatever you think about that, whether it's cheap money, whether it's the taxpayer on the hook for that money, it really doesn't matter. Yes, U.S. banks still have a tremendous amount of toxic debt, but they've been recapitalized. Where in Europe, those banks have not been recapitalized. They've just continued to extend fiat money to them in lines of credit, hoping there's going to be some, miracle and asset prices will recover. They'll be able to unload this toxic debt. But the banks in Europe have not been recapitalized. And banks that ordinarily would have only have dealt with Wall Street firms are now willing to deal with really anybody that'll simply knock on their door and say, hey, I might be interested in, acquiring some residential debt or some commercial debt. So I wanted to make you aware of that too, because again, in a world and in an industry that is rapidly changing, that is basically online, most of it's all done virtually or done online, why limit yourself to just one market where you could buy properties and invest globally? Anyways, until then, take a look at our newsletter. Just did a great interview with Greg Hunter from USA Watchdog. We posted that to the site, or we will be. We'll also be sending it out to the newsletter. Also, the Resourceful Real Estate Academy, really excited that we'll be coming out with that here in the next couple weeks. For those of you that want to participate, there'll be a limited run up front that you'll be able to get involved with, and we'll have more information of that in the next week. Until then, I'm Fabian Calvo. Go out, earn a profit, make some money, and serve your community as you become a Resourceful Real Estate Academy expert.